Ah, recording in progress. Okay, got it. Thanks. No more pressure. God. Okay. So my drinking career starts at 8 years old. I joke around about how like I was bred to be an alcoholic. Um, my if I tell people that like if you ever drank or wanted to drink or drug, you came to grandma's house because that's where it all happened, and we didn't stop until the cops showed up. Um, and even before my first drink at 8 years old, I had my own wine glass at my grandmother's house that she used to fill up with Crystal Light, so that I could fit in talking around the fire with her and her friends. And so fast forward, I have my first drink at 8 years old. Um, and I got this like really dizzy feeling. And like if you've ever like spun around in circles as a little kid, that euphoric feeling of like the world just like spinning. It was a great feeling. I hated the taste of wine. But that euphoric feeling I chased for a really long time. My parents got divorced when I was 7 years old. Um, and Back then, it was not normal for fathers to get full custody of their children, and mine did. So, again, I'm different. Cool. Not really. My father ran an emergency department as a paramedic. So I grew up at 7 years old, raising my little brother and sister. Just to give you some background to that, my brother was one, and my sister was a newborn. So I became a single mom of two kids at 8 years old. Getting them to school. Looking back on it, I have no idea how we survived. You just did what you had to do. Fast forward, I was bullied in school. I played sports. I did all the things that like I was told I needed to do to fit in to everybody, and never fit in. I remember stealing a lacrosse jacket from the lost and found, clearly with like the person's name and number on the sleeve, and I was like, no, this is my jacket. Delusional. So fast forward, I moved from my hometown in seventh grade to an even smaller town so that my father could be closer to work. Um, and and same thing. I changed my hair, I changed the music I listened to, the clothes I wore, the way I spoke, the way that I presented myself. I really was a chameleon. I put the mask on. Whatever you needed me to be, I was that for you. And my whole attitude and personality was driven on motives. um, and I had this like hole in my soul from a very young age that I was trying to fill with something. My dad got remarried in eighth grade to a very religious woman. And back then I was not able to accept her for who she was or what she was trying to instill in me. um, we would go shopping for clothes, and like the arms would go up above the hair and the head, and like if there was any skin showing, like you weren't allowed to wear that. The skirts like past my ankles. I'm 5'9". Those are really long skirts. And I was just not about it. I was just not about it, and I caused a lot of harm within my household. So fast forward to high school. This is, I was a binge drinker by the age of 13. I say that I was a full-blown alcoholic, but I think that sometimes people take that into like I was drinking every day, and really I was just getting drunk on the weekends and bringing alcohol to school. Um, at 13 years old. So fast forward to high school, what that looked like was progression, and a lot of it, and very quickly. I failed my freshman year of high school. I got into pills, and I didn't ask questions. If you told me that it was going to make me feel any way than what I felt sober, I was taking it. Um, and like I never asked questions. Um, I had caused so much harm within my household that my stepmom shipped me off to Florida to live with my mom while my father was on a business trip. My dad came back and was like, "Oh, okay, so she's not here anymore." um, and like the manipulation started. Mom, if I pass this school year, like you have to move me back to New Hampshire, because like that's where my life is, and this is unfair, and poor me, and self-pity and feel bad for me and bring me home. And as an alcoholic that has a motive, I did just that. I passed my sophomore year of high school. I came back to New Hampshire and like picked up right where I left off. Through this whole time I was dating a boy. That is a reoccurring theme in my story. And my senior year of high school, I had ran away from home so many times that like I was on a first name basis with the local police. And they knew my hideout spots. So like I had to leave the state. I like chopped my hair and dyed it, like becoming a fugitive, but like ran away from home because I was delusional, and unhappy. My senior year of high school, I got pregnant, which was like the first time that my higher power had really tried to like slap me across the face and tell me to get my shit together. And I didn't listen. By the grace of God, I was able to stay sober throughout my pregnancy, and I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. I graduated high school. I was really able in that 9 months to like really pull my life together and like become an active member of society, I guess. But like after I had given birth, it went downhill, and it went downhill really fast. I married my high school sweetheart at the age of 19, and he drank like I did, and drinking led to abuse, physical, mental, emotional, you name it. And it was a really toxic relationship. I ended up getting divorced a few years later after like more progression. And like just to kind of show you like the chaos that I was willing to deal with, is that my first husband got all of the women that he had ever slept with tattooed on his back. And that's how I found out he cheated on me. And I was like, yeah, no problem. It's okay. I'm number one. I'm first on the list. We're good. It was so delusional and chaotic. And like, it's laughable today because like that would never fly in like a sane woman's mind. Anyway, we get divorced, and, and how the divorce came to be is that like my best friend was moving to Iowa with her girlfriend, and we had a going away party. And my husband was flicking bottle caps at me and like calling me a slut and a whore and like all of these like really degrading things. And this man got up and like beat him up, and like he was my knight in shining armor. So like, of course I have to divorce my husband and go date this man, because like he's my savior. And like I went from one toxic relationship and like leveled up in toxicity, because like he didn't hurt me enough, so I had to like go seek it more. And that's how I met my son's father. So like now I'm with this new man. I'm divorced. I'm like 20 years old, going through a divorce, pregnant with my second child, not even 21 yet, and like haven't drawn a sober breath since I had given birth to my daughter. So again, like I get sober, I'm pregnant, I got to be the good mom. I can't do that. I self-willed my way through it. I got pregnant in like February. It was like February. And my 21st birthday hit, and I was like noticeably pregnant. We went to a Mexican restaurant local to us, and like I just started drinking margaritas and like couldn't stop. And like the phenomenon of craving was real. It was like my 21st birthday. I was like in that mindset. I had no defense. I was like, yeah, margarita, 21, absolutely. Like completely forgetting that like I'm pregnant. And I'm like there with my family, and they're like looking at me, and I'm like, I'm 21, like it's fine. One drink's not going to hurt the baby, and then like I'm like 5 margaritas deep. And like my mom said something to me, and And I can't remember what she said. I just remember that like it hit deep, and I like went to the bathroom and made myself throw up because like I thought that that would take the alcohol out of my system. That doesn't work. So I went home and like laid on the couch and cried about how like I was a piece of shit and like all of these things. Um, so like fast forward, I have my son Travis, and he's healthy, he's good. I ended up like being able to will my way into some sobriety again, and I find out again like I'm supposed to marry this man because like at 7 years old, when I'm asked what I want to be in life, normal kids say like police officer or teacher, or I want to be a doctor. And like I told my teacher that I wanted to be a mom and a wife, and like I wanted to be able to have a family at 7 years old, because like I didn't get that as a kid. So like I'm constantly trying to chase this my entire life. So I find out that 2 weeks before I'm supposed to marry my son's father, that he too had been cheating on me our entire relationship. And I left, and that was a really abusive situation to leave, and I had nowhere to go. I was homeless. He was a very dominating man. I was not allowed to work. I was not allowed to like have my own friends. I was not allowed, I had no outside connection to the world. So I had to like start my life over while also being at the start of another debacle, and like this is where my life really starts to fall apart. I'm finding babysitters for my kids. I'm leaving them with anybody that will take them to like be able to go out and drink, and like, because like I was never the young kid because like I had kids young, and like all of these excuses I gave myself. So fast forward, a lot of progression, a lot of not being able to show up for people, a lot of shame and guilt and little self-worth, and like just chasing anything that would make me feel better because I literally hated myself. Um, I meet my second husband. Oh God, my life. I meet my second husband in 2017. We get married on our 1 year anniversary. How romantic. And he introduced me to a whole new life. I had mentioned that like I had gotten into pills in high school, and like I dabbled in some cocaine and like ecstasy and stuff in high school. But like drinking was my thing. I am a true, real alcoholic through and through. But when I noticed that I could use other substances and still stay up straight, I would do those substances to be able to drink the way that I wanted to. And my second husband introduced me to methamphetamines. And he switched my line to meth, and I was hooked the second I took it. And I was like freaking out. I was like, what the fuck did you just do? I told you I never wanted to do this, blah, blah, blah. But like I was off and running. And at this point, like I share that I'm a chronic relapser because like I can never stay sober. I've come into AA twice in my life. But like I've never been able to stay sober on my own willpower. So I come to this conclusion that like if I leave this man, then like I can stay sober, because like it's him and not me. It's always other people. I have to change my people, places, and things because like it's not me, it's them. And if I just get into a new environment, then I'm gonna be okay because like I can remake myself. I've done that 100 times. And I prove myself wrong every single time. So I come into AA probably about six years ago now. And to prove to my second husband that it wasn't me and that he was the guy that needed to go to treatment. And I quickly was able to identify with the big book of like, maybe I have a drinking problem, but in there is a solution when it's talking about like that moderate drinker, that hard drinker, and like the real alcoholic. I was still convinced that I was just a hard drinker because like I was able to stay sober through my pregnancies, and like that's a life altering event. So like maybe I'm not a real alcoholic. Um, and like all the justifications that I gave myself. I got 4 months within the community of Alcoholics Anonymous before like the fear of being 24, 25 years old, with two divorces and two children. Like it was like society standards were crippling my soul, that I literally could not leave this man. So like I went out there to try and save him, because like I'm a saver, screw myself, but like if I can help you, I got you. And I quickly learned that mindset was going to kill me. And off on another debacle I went, crossing even more lines, right? The big book talks about incomprehensible demoralization. And what that means is like incomprehensible, meaning I don't understand it, and demoralization, meaning I will do anything and everything I need to do to get what I need. And that included selling my body. That included, saying whatever I needed to say. That included, raiding houses and causing like a lot of harm. I was the addict that would literally beat up your grandma for her purse, and like, by the grace of God, I'm not that person anymore, so let's get to solutions. So I was working in the nursing field, May of 2019, and I was asked to leave my job. I was escorted off the property. They told me that they were either going to call the police or I could go willingly. And I was like, well, F you, and I'll just go. And I sat in the parking lot at my work and I wrote suicide letters to my children and to my parents. And in these suicide letters, I pretty much told them that like it wasn't them, it was me. And that like I could not produce happiness, and that I didn't want them to blame themselves, and that I did believe in like the divine and spiritual things. I just couldn't practice them. So I told them that like when they get sad, like I am going to be there. Like they were really emotional. And I had a plan to intentionally overdose, because I wanted to be labeled as the quote unquote junkie that just overdosed, rather than a single mom of two kids that had a drug problem that like just committed suicide and like didn't care. And that was like my delusional thinking. So I was on my way to dude's house, and with the full intention, like I'm ready. And something happened on my drive there, where instead of like showing up to this guy's house and to like fulfill my plan for my life, the divine stepped in again. And I called a member of Alcoholics Anonymous that I had met a few years before. And I remember the day like it was yesterday. It was rainy and it was cold, and this crazy woman was going to the beach, and I couldn't understand why she was going to the beach, but I went with her anyway, because at that moment I had decided that like I needed to live. And at this beach I had my very first true, authentic step one experience, where I could admit that I was powerless over alcohol, and that my life was a complete shit show and it was unmanageable. And I also had a step two experience in this moment, where like I believed that my higher power could restore me to sanity, to some degree, because like I had seen it work in other people. I remember telling this woman, like, I just need AA to fix it. Like, I know that it works. I just needed to fix it. And like, I don't know how to do what you all do. Like, how do you just have this blind faith? Like, how do you do this? And by the time I was done, like telling this woman my relapse story, if you will, and like how unmanageable and the mindset that I was in, the sun came out and I ended up getting sunburn. And that's important to the story. Please remember that. I got sunburn. It made me look like a cheetah because I had holes all up in my pants. And I got a severe sunburn that I couldn't sit for like a week. And that started my journey, God willing, I say God willing all the time, and I have to remember that God is always willing. It's me that has to be willing. If I'm willing, I will have 3 years of sobriety in May. If I'm willing to continue to work this program as it is laid out, like I can have all of the wonders that my higher power promises me. It's when I start to run in self-will that my program starts to lack, right? God has nothing to do with that. God shows up when I seek him. And if I start to seek chaos, then that's what I get in my life. And I've come to realize that, like, it's all about my intention. So I come into this program, I get a sponsor. I sponsor jump for a few months because I'm stubborn and like I'm looking for the perfect match or something. I don't know. It was really, I can truly say that I was just wasting time, because I knew that once I got a sponsor, I had to write that scary 4-step that everybody talks about. And I didn't really want to do that because I knew that my 4-step would potentially send me to prison for a really long time. So I was probably about a year sober, probably 8 months sober before I found a sponsor that like I stuck with and was committed to doing the steps with. I took a 3rd step prayer right before my year. And the funny thing is that my birthday is actually the day before my sobriety date. So I had shown up to a campfire that a friend was having for me for my birthday, and my sponsor happened to be there, and she's like, "Are you ready to do your 3rd step prayer?" And I was like, "We're going to do it right here." Okay. So we got down and we said the prayer. She had me rewrite the 3rd step prayer to have an emotional connection with my higher power, so that it wasn't just words that I'm saying. That's my experience. I have had to reword every prayer that A has given me so that I can have an emotional connection to it. Because if I don't have an emotional connection to it, I'm just saying things. And that has proven to not work for me. And at the end of my 3rd step prayer, my hair caught on fire. Yeah, that more pain. See it, sunburn. Now our hair's on fire. We're rolling. So then I go home, and she's like, "You're going to start writing your list right now, and in 4 days time, I'm going to check in with you, and you're going to be done your 1st column of your 4-step." And I was like, "Okay." She was like, "You're going to list down all the people you were angry at." I was like, "Okay, I'm going to find the motherfucker that made me an alcoholic. That's what I'm going to do. This is what this 4-step's all about. I'm going to find the person that made me an alcoholic, that caused me enough trauma that made me have to drink, I found her all right, and she's right here. Me and my attitudes and my perceptions made me an alcoholic. I was convinced that it was going to be my father, but it wasn't. And the 4-step gets a really bad rap in 12-step fellowships, and I can tell you I can promise you something. And I don't promise things very often. Because I am a woman of my word today, but I can promise you that anybody that talks shit about a 4-step has not written one. Because the 4-step was the most freeing thing that I ever did for myself. It was painful, won't lie. It was really painful. Really, I put all my trauma in there. I put everything. I was thorough and honest, because my sponsor told me that if I left any stone unturned, that there was a possibility that I would drink again. And that thought frightened the crap out of me. So 485 people later, I finished my 1st column and my 2nd column. I did an extended 3rd, which if you don't know what an extended 3rd is, it's when you take those effects and you reflect on why they affect that effect, and what you needed in that moment, and then I did my turnarounds. Turns out I'm selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and afraid in almost every aspect of my life, if not every single one. I then did fear inventory and sex conduct and read that 4-step to my sponsor. and went home and took my hour with God. Not gonna lie, I fell asleep. I had a panic attack, like an anxiety attack when I woke up because like I had fallen asleep. And one of my character defects is that I'm a perfectionist. So I called up my sponsor, like hyperventilating about how like I had messed the sixth step up and how I had to read my fifth all over again and like I needed to start again. And she was like, Katie, like take a breath, like you're okay, you don't have to start it over. She's like, no, like I was like, you don't understand, like I fell asleep, like I messed it up. And she was like, Katie, I need you to take a breath, and she did some deep breathing with me over the phone. And she was like, what do you hear? And I was like, what do you mean? What do I hear? I don't hear anything. I hear nothing, dude. What do you like? Am I supposed to be hearing the voice of God right now? Because like I messed it up. I just told you that. And she was like, no, you don't hear anything because that's peace of mind. And I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense. She handed me a list of my character defects and I offer those to my higher power every day. Because it gets the character defects part of Alcoholics Anonymous sometimes I believe gets confused because I try to take those character defects away. I try to not act on those character defects. When the prayer says that like I'm humbly asking God to take them away in God's time, not Katie's time. Right. So like, even if my character defects are causing me pain, like when I'm done with them, when they're no longer serving me, God will take them from me, but I have to stop playing with them long enough for him to take them. Right. It's like I'm a toddler. And like, if I'm playing with the toy and mom just comes up and takes the toy, I'm going to throw a tantrum. God waits till I'm on to the next thing. I made a list of amends. I have gone through, I think I have like 4 amends left to make. And those are 4 people that are not willing to see me, which is totally okay. When those amends pop up, I am willing and I'm ready. Some of the hardest amends that I had to make, I've had really hard ones and really easy ones. I tried to make an amends to my mom. She told me to save it, that like I was doing well and like it's water under the bridge and it is what it is. I pretty much told her that like I needed to make this amends to her. So like when she was ready, she can hear it. She was like, well, I'm never going to be ready. You're fine. As long as you stay sober, I'm good. I'm like, okay, cool. I had to make an amends to my son's father, which I thought that I was never going to do until my son turned 18, because of the vicious back and forth toxic co-parenting relationship that we had. I was really terrified to make an amends because I thought that he would take my son away. But like God saw me through that. And my amends have been beautiful. I believe that I've had multiple spiritual awakenings throughout my journey. But like my amends is really where I found my higher power. Really where I found my higher power. Because sometimes I would sit down to like make an amends and like I would be shaking, terrified. And like my higher power would just like come up with words to say. And it was like I was not even there. I was just being used as a vessel, if you will. Step 10, I do 10th step inventory almost on a weekly basis. Because I am still an alcoholic. I work in treatment. I deal with interpersonal difficulties all the time. I still try to take my control back. I still get angry and resentful. And that's what we have 10-step inventory for. My 11 steps sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact. I do it nightly every night. And I bring that into my prayer life. My prayer and meditation life looks a lot different than it did when I first got sober. When I first got sober, I would get on my knees and like I would make the routine of it all. Because like I needed structure in my early sobriety. My prayer life now can look like me just sitting in a chair talking to myself sometimes. And I tell my sponsees that struggle with a higher power, you just got to talk to your higher power or the air around you like they're your friend. Sometimes I'm like, listen, God, like I don't know what's going on, but like this doesn't feel good, so I hope you have a plan, because I don't. You know, and meditation looks a lot different too. I used to, you know, stress about like being able to sit in silence for 10 minutes. And I learned very quickly um that it's not about the amount of time you meditate, it's about what you do with the time that you're meditating. Um, and I've also learned that meditation is not the art of stopping thought, it's the art of acknowledging and letting go, which was mind blowing to me. I was like, you mean I don't have to stop all the thoughts that are going through my head? No, you just let them go. You don't let them. I have an obsessive mind, right? So, like one thought, I don't just obsess over drugs and alcohol. I obsess over everything. I obsess over conversations. I obsess over the actions that I should have taken or what I should have said or didn't say or whatever, you know? And sometimes just meditating and coming back to the present moment makes those thoughts stop. And my 12th step, I do a lot of 12-step work. I speak a lot. I sponsor a lot of women. Most recently, not so much. I was up to like 15 sponsees, and I had to cut that back. You know, so now I have two women that I work very hard with, and I think that's all I got. I live a pretty beautiful life. Um, you know, by no means is has my recovery been easy, you know. But as long as I continue to do what's in the first 164 pages of that book, like I know that I'm going to be okay. Um, and if no one's told you today, you're worth your sobriety. You are good enough, and I love you and need you.